You're listening to Unguarded, a podcast where we talk about relationships and living in an unguarded life. And we're your hosts, Beck and Joe,
Yep, we are.
the Smiths,
We're
in the
here.
house.
Another episode. And today we are going to talk about red flags.
Yes, we are.
All right, we all know the red flags. We've heard about the red flags. Sometimes they're obvious, sometimes they're subtle. And we just want to take some time to have a conversation about maybe some of the nuances of being in a relationship and noticing and seeing red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And then even why so many of us stay in a relationship even though we see the red flags.
Yes.
Right? I know we talk to a lot of people who are dating and this how you know it's like language for it is a red flag or a potential red flag. It's the person who reaches out and says, "Hey, can we talk? I want to chat about my relationship."
Mm-hmm.
Almost never it's I want to meet and chat about how incredible
it is, yeah.
Let me tell you how awesome she is. Like, let me tell you what he did for me this week, right? Most of the time, whenever we get that text, that heads up, "Hey, can we chat?" It's because that's the language for I'm trying to identify if this is a red flag or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to identify if this is a cautionary, danger zone we're about to step into. And I think it's great. I think it's good to have people in your life that you can process through that with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for you, are there certain things that you would, if a girl came to you and was like, "Hey, I want to talk about my relationship," and if she brought this thing up, you would have an immediate like, wah, 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 wah,
Yeah, that's a good
red
one.
flag. What would be one of your top ones?
Okay, well, one of the top ones would be, does the person respect you, like you, find you interesting?
Mm-hmm. Are those three things?
No,
Are they
that's
one
just
thing?
one kind of thing. I just
Okay.
think maybe respect is its own thing, but
Okay, break that down.
I think that it's like when you met me, I felt like you were curious about me and you were intrigued about how my brain worked
Mm-hmm.
and how I saw the world. And maybe how I lived my life. You thought we had interesting conversations, we got deep, and I felt like intellectually we both stimulated each other. Hopefully you agree with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I just think it's at the beginning of the relationship, you can kind of tell if they're just maybe more interested in the fact that you're so pretty, that you're attractive, but
Okay,
they're
which
not.
one now? Because
You think
you were
so?
talking about respect before, and now interesting. Is there one that? Because I feel like those are two different things.
Okay.
Is there one that you would think is more important?
I mean, I think they're both equally important.
They're both equally important.
But I guess
yeah.
respect could be the first one that you just. But I think you find the person interesting. That's why you start to respect them, or you see what they're capable of, and you're like I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she met this guy very recently, and she doesn't really know him that well. She just knows that they have similar interests, and she's gonna go to the city that he lives in, and they're doing a job together. He's like, "Oh, hey, do you want to work in this job? So I can pay you while you're here."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah, cool. That sounds great." And I said, "That's great because then you'll get to see him in his work environment, and usually people become more attractive or less attractive because when you see them in their work environment, you're like, oh, wow, I respect what they have to say. I respect how they work
Mm-hmm.
or their like moral values." I mean, I guess respect has like pinpoint of a lot of different areas. But I remember meeting like how I saw you in your friend group, and I respected you more so because I saw your relationships with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw how you treated people who were younger than you. I saw how you worked. And I was like, I respected you more and more.
Mm.
And then I also respected you, how you treated me and how you didn't cross lines to get what you wanted. So maybe that's the key part right there. That I remember when I told you that I liked you, well, in a roundabout way, and you go, "Yeah, I like you too." And immediately I was like, "Oh, he's definitely going to try to kiss me," because that's usually the next thing. And then when you didn't and you withheld,
But then you did. So
no, I didn't in that moment. Jeez, Louise.
not in that moment. And in
Later.
a moment shortly after.
No, the first kiss we had, you initiated, and it was at the swings.
At the swings.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I think it's
That's not how I
after.
remember it, but okay.
No. That was our first date. When we had our first date and I kissed you.
Okay.
Yes.
That was first makeout sesh.
Yeah, that
Not
was
the first.
that was
Okay.
me initiating.
Gotcha. Yes.
But the first kiss was at the swings
Okay.
where I lived. Remember? I
Yeah,
think it was the
vaguely.
night that we stayed up until 1 because we were chatting about your talk for the next day. And you walked me home, and there was the swings that we chatted for a little bit. You kissed me, and then I left, went home. Anyhow,
Yes.
but the first night when I told you I liked you, you didn't cross that line. It felt like, oh, wow, he's actually respecting me enough not to go there and not to take something from me. Because I probably would have gone, okay, I guess I could kiss you. But I love that you didn't put me in a place where I had to decide right away would I kiss you or not.
It's good. Yeah.
So I went around a little bit of different places, but
So where how would you synthesize like the first red flag?
well, if they don't respect you, usually they take what's not theirs. And in doing so, they've disrespected you.
Yep.
If they're only thinking about themselves and what they can get out of the situation, maybe they're just thinking of the present moment. Like, what do I feel like? What do I want? I want to make out. So I'm going to take it. And they take it too soon.
Yeah. For me, I think even thinking through like a sub layer to that is, as one caution, right? One potential red flag is identifying how they treat people less powerful than them, how they treat people that can give them nothing. Like one really telling sign is like asking the person that you're with, or sorry, asking yourself, and you're noticing the person you're with, like how are they with waiters at restaurants? Like how do they treat baristas at coffee shops? How do they engage with valet? Those are moments where it says, for me, it says a lot, because if you're short with a waitress, if you're disrespectful to a barista, if you think, the world is supposed to just like, serve you and be at your beck and call, and you just can't show kindness, you can't show, it's one thing of who a person is, even you're saying like in a job and in a space. I feel like so oftentimes people put on a public front when there's so many eyes watching, but a great tell and a great gauge is who are they when there's 0 to almost hardly any eyes watching. And if they're a different person in the limelight than they are, behind the scenes, I think that's a caution. Be careful.
Yeah.
Because they know how to play the game. They know how to position and posture, and they know how to put themselves in the best of light, which may not necessarily be the most authentic light. And so, yeah, I think even just playing in your arena there with respect, and I feel like that's one thing that you can look for and go, like, legitimately, are they the same person in public as they are when they're in private?
Yeah, it's like, do they have good character? And maybe that's something that when you're dating someone, to look at their character and go, are they kind? Are they patient?
Yeah, what else is good? What does good character mean?
I mean, character is like making the hard choice when or making the right choice when it's hard. Like choosing to be with someone of integrity when no one's watching and you don't have to be, or being honest when you didn't have to be.
Sure. Yeah.
When they decide, like, keeping to their word, that they said they're going to do something and they actually follow through with it. And if you see a pattern where they're not, just even that one little bit, if they're not keeping to their word, or they keep changing, or they're like, I feel like a lot of our friends who are on the dating app, I feel like this can be kind of noticeable when they're like, oh, let's meet up for this. And then, oh, I actually have a family situation, so I can't meet up. Let's do another day, or, and it's like
Yep.
already they're like little shifty and you can't quite like pinpoint them. That's when I feel like,
Yeah.
like they're kind of playing the game because maybe they're trying to figure out another date on the side, and they're texting someone else at the same time they're texting you. So they're trying to figure out, okay, do I date this person? Do I date this person? It just feels a little iffy. So it's like, do they follow through, and do they turn up when they say they're going to turn up?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Or even like, are they making excuses, all the time? Do you feel like they're justifying all the time? Is there seem to be something that goes wrong or is inconvenient? A lot of times when you have one of those, you can dismiss it. But when they start piling up and adding up, that's when you can begin to trust your gut. That's the other thing too. It's like, not that you need to always trust your gut, because sometimes our guts get us in trouble, right? Because sometimes we trust our eyes more than we trust our gut. If you catch my drift.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the danger more often than not with, especially I'll just say with girls. The pattern I've noticed is girls ignoring certain hangups because of what they see with their eyes, and they avoid the conversation that they can feel at the core of who they are. Right. Cause it's just, it's dangerous when you're making that choice in the moment because you want it to work out, more so than when what you're actually observing and experiencing, and then in retrospect, how often is like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you did that, or I should have known, or I did know, but why did I not fully go there? Why did I not trust myself, trust others? And I think a lot of times just because we trust more in what we can see and believe that we can change what we see.
Yeah.
And it almost never goes well.
So maybe let me just get this right. Maybe what you're saying is like, they may say something, but they don't fully, they don't fully mean it. They're like, oh yeah, they're making an excuse, and you can tell that this seems like an excuse and not the actual truth.
Sure.
So then it's on you to dig deeper and go, okay, this doesn't quite make sense.
Yep. Yeah. Because there's a difference between making excuses and taking ownership, or making excuses and being forthcoming in an apology.
Yeah.
And you could tell a lot of that with tone, when you're trying to make excuses, and I look at my own life, right? When I'm not being fully forthcoming, or if I don't know how to, if I haven't brought myself to fully go there in a situation, or not even dating, but maybe bringing the true reality because it's going to hurt something, there's almost always a through line of you make excuse and you justify rather than just owning it.
Yeah.
And if you notice that in a dating relationship, if you notice that in a committed relationship, that there's more excuses than there is apologies, then that could be a potential red flag.
I want to have another one piggybacking off that is being defensive.
Yeah.
If you notice that they're constantly, you bring something up that's vulnerable, personal, and they're always on the defense. They're always trying to protect themselves, protect the perception that people have about them. So instead of owning it, like you said, and taking responsibility and going, okay, you're right, maybe I made you feel that way and I'm so sorry, let's talk about it. They're like, well, why did you have to bring that up? Well, that's on you. Or, it's like immediately they're on the defense. They're not open to hearing you and really listening, actively listening.
Why do we get defensive in relationships?
I mean, one, I think it's because we avoid our own crap. We don't really want to deal with what's broken. And if we've got away with it in the past, then we'll keep doing it. It's like if you get defensive, then you just put it onto the other person, and then you get away with it with not talking about it.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, I don't want to go. I want to get a great body, but I don't want to work out for it. I don't want to go to the gym for it. You know, similar to like maybe you say you want to have a great relationship, but when it comes down to having the tough conversations, you don't really want to be vulnerable too.
Mm.
You don't want to open up because it hurts too much. And maybe you're afraid that if they knew the true brokenness inside of you, if you told them the truth, they may use it against you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a really interesting point, that maybe you've had relationships in the past or in your family where you've been vulnerable and you've shared something that's really tough and it's been slammed down. So now you don't even want to go there anymore. And so every time someone's vulnerable with you, you get defensive.
Yep.
Because people can be vulnerable to you not to attack you, but it's how you perceive it, right?
Mm.
If you perceive it as, oh, this is an attack on me, which I've been there before with you, where I was like, it feels like you're attacking me. And then you're like, no, it's not at all. I'm just bringing up something and I'm bringing up a point. Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it separately from you as a person?
You have an example of that? Just curious. You may not.
I mean, the one time that I remember was you were saying, hey, can we figure out different workout sessions?
Mm-hmm.
When you work out, can you do it differently?
Yeah, we did a whole pod about that one.
We did.
Any other ones? Just trying to find the moments when I frustrated you or got you upset. Give the people what they want, the real stuff.
I don't know. You have to think about it. I mean, I think it's just like the small things. I'm trying to think just a day ago.
Just a day ago.
I'm just trying to think what it was, though. You said something like, oh, what was it? You're like, oh, you're going to do that? And I'm like, yeah. Isn't that okay or something? You're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, well, it sounded like it wasn't fine.
Okay, yeah.
Do you remember what it was?
I don't. Also, I have either great memory or
Terrible memory.
A very trash memory.
But that was like a quick, like the way that you said it with your tone, it sounded like you were implying more than what it really was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe I got slightly defensive. Like, are you trying to say something, implying something more? And you quickly clarified, no. I was like, oh, it sounded like it. So just checking.
Yeah.
Like, no, I didn't mean anything by it. That's fine. If you have to do that, that's fine. I was like, okay. It's like, oh, you're going to go do that and you're not going to clean the house? It's like, no. Not that you would ever really push me to clean the house. I'm the one that's like, I need to clean the house.
Yes, red flag could be, if you don't want to clean the house and the other person wants to clean the house and you're, I don't know, just messing. What are some other red flags?
Maybe it could be about like past relations that they're still connected to the past relationships, their exes.
Sure. Yep.
I feel like that feels iffy.
So what is the dance with that? Because there's a lot of people that talk about, everyone has different thoughts on connectivity with exes, right? Like for some people it's not a big deal. For some people it can be a big deal depending on who it is. For some people it's, hey, I don't like the nature of how you work together, like people who are work wives or work friends, and then that line can kind of dance, or like they dated previously before but then established, no, this is just a friendship. And what are there boundaries, are there levels to engaging with an ex?
I mean, I appreciate the fact that you don't have any need to have any relationship with any exes. Not that you had many.
Shots fired unnecessarily.
But I'm just saying, like, some people might have lots of different exes, and it's like, oh, there's lots of people in the closet. I don't feel like I need to open that box up from the past and not have I don't have any connection with anybody that I liked or that they liked me or.
But our situation is also a little unique because both of us lived outside of LA before we met.
But I don't think even if you lived back in Arizona, I don't think you would have any relationship with your exes.
No, for sure. But I'm just saying in terms of that dynamic is pretty null and void with us.
But I could FaceTime them. I could still connect with.
No, my whole point just being
Oh.
it's a lot harder, or there's just more nuance to that when you're in the same city. Like
And
we
you
have
see them.
friends that are here in LA and they're dating here in LA, or they're engaged or married here in LA, and they have other previous exes that are in the same city.
Yeah.
It's just meaning that's a real, it's a real potential issue for people because just practically speaking, here at Mosaic, right? We
Yeah,
have people
I was just
who
about to say.
have dated and they're in the same church, and it's so difficult. And people ask all the time, like, how do you do it? And I get it. It's tough because in most situations, even if you live in the same city, you break up, you never see each other again.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly. Or you do everything you can to, you know, the places they like to go, you know, the clubs and the restaurants and and you just avoid them.
Yeah.
But if you're in the same community, like a church, it's more nuanced because you both connect it to the community, and how do you move forward and how do you engage when the other person is with somebody else and vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, I think that particular, like in community, I think that's really tough. And it's really hard to watch someone else move on and you haven't moved on yet.
Yep.
So I think that's tricky. I think that as much as possible, like the more that you can let it go and the more that you can just be amicable with that person. So I think there's a difference between having a close relationship with your ex. That's where I would feel a little iffy if you had a close relationship with your ex. But we've seen your ex, and I don't mind talking to her, and I don't mind if you were talking to her. Like, but I think that's the difference of like, okay, we're maybe in the same space. I don't have any problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it may be tough if you're having a friendship, which some people want to still have friendships with their exes because there's love there. But I remember someone asked it in our Q&A for the last live when we did. And I was like, I think you have to ask yourself, why is it that you want to have a relationship with them?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because they help? Because I think that when there is a love that's being developed between two people, even if it's now just a friendship kind of love, but you know the buttons, you know how to make you feel good. They know what to say. And it's kind of nice to still have that around.
Yeah.
And I think that's an easy way that I don't need it, say from my current partner, say from you. I can just get it sometimes from them because they're not in my day to day, and they're not getting irritated by me.
Yeah.
And they made me feel good when I talk to them because your relationship is now completely different. It's like all the fun parts that you can still have without the messy stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And you can condone it by going, oh, well, justify it and say, well, we're just still friends. It's not a big deal.
Yep.
It's like, but you still have an emotional connection to that person. And do you really want that door to still be open and in your life while you're having a relationship and or even a marriage with someone else?
Yeah.
When that person could make your current partner feel jealous. And is that worth it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And part of that too is making sure that you're having that person at the forefront of your mind more than anything.
Yes.
You know, and how does the situation respect them? Does it honor them? Does it put them in the best light? You know, does it protect them from having to be the bad guy, the bad girl that, you know, has to come out and say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, right? Even like not necessarily a red flag, but what can be a green flag, you know, because maybe that's an important conversation as well. Of not just things that you want to look for that are like cautionary spaces, but what are things you want to look for that are like clear pathways forward?
Yeah.
And a green flag in a relationship is somebody who sees the thing before it becomes an issue and chooses to deal with it, right? It's the person that doesn't always need to be asked to make the right choice. They make the right choice before they're even asked.
Mm-hmm. Can you give an example?
I mean, just playing with that, going before your partner, your spouse, girlfriend, whatever, has to ask you, hey, can you not communicate with them? You are the one that decides, I'm going to cut off ties.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to engage, but before it even becomes an issue, okay? Because there are certain things in a relationship that you need to deal with as a couple because it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
There's other things in a relationship that you can actually
Get ahead.
deal with before it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a sign of health, both individually and collectively as a couple, is when you're able to foresee potential issues.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's the pre-op and post-op, or it's like, or not just it's pre-op, difference between pre-op and in surgery. If you only deal with things in surgery, your relationship is going to always feel like it's in crisis mode.
Yeah.
There's always something to work on. But if you can get really good at the pre-op to notice the thing before it becomes a crisis, it'll be a game changer in how you actually relate to each other, and especially in moments of crisis.
That's good.
Green flags, yeah?
Mm-hmm. One other thing that came up, we did a relationship class.
You did?
In February. And one thing that someone asked was, what would you do if your partner, your husband or whatever, your partner has friends that don't like you?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say if I was friends with someone that didn't like you? How would you feel?
Well, I think maybe it's better flipped, because for me, I don't really care.
It does seem like, I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say, oh, I don't care. They don't like me, whatever.
Oh, it's just, and not even them, not because I don't care about other, because I know there has been situations where I felt it, that there's been people, in your world, or that didn't, not that they didn't like me, but if they weren't that interested, or they didn't go out of their way. And I was just like, I didn't really care. I don't care as much. I know you, I mean, that's the important thing, is knowing where your person is in that space. So not that you would even do it, but you would be more inclined, or, you wouldn't take that into consideration a ton as it relates to me, because I think you would also gauge, he doesn't really care that much. But I know you would care more if I had somebody in my life that didn't like you, right? Or am I?
I think I'm now maybe changing a little bit. Like, okay. I think that, you have friends that you hang out with that I don't have a real relationship with. I'm
trying to think of what friends like that.
There's just a couple of people, some guys that, we've had one friend who we've been trying to do a double date for months. So maybe that's like, that will change. And not to say that I don't like the person, because I do. It's just that I know that he.
Now every double date we have from this point forward in the next few months, people will be
like,
was it me?
Yeah. But he's more there's some guys that you've connected with, of course, say at Mosaic, that I don't know very well. And I don't have any opinion, like, do they like me? Do they like me?
Sure.
Maybe back in the day.
You have connection with, and whether somebody dislikes you.
Yes. I think if there's a close friend of yours and they dislike me, I think that's super weird that you would still want to hang out with them.
Yes.
Right? Because why would you want to be with someone who's like kind of disrespectful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there's a line to that, right? Where sometimes you're just not very close with that person, and that's fine. That's normal. There are going to be situations and relationships that I have with certain people and certain friends and certain guys that you're not going to be as close with. It'd be weird if you were just as close with them, right? But then, to take it to the nth degree, if there was somebody that's like resistant to you, and I really don't like her, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Then it's a different conversation, because why would you want that person in your life?
Yeah. Why would you want someone giving you negative thoughts about that other person?
For sure. Which is also why it's a danger and more girls than guys will do this, but that's why it can be a danger to badmouth your partner, your spouse, with family or friends that maybe not even that they dislike the person, but they will fuel the negativity of talking bad about that person.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Are you
So
with me?
is there a line of someone coming to you asking for feedback and asking you for advice? Or is it, yeah, you can do that, but you can't always be negative about the person?
Yeah, if the only time you talk about the person is
Is
when they're
negative.
complaining, that's an unhealthy
Yeah.
framework.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not fair for the spouse or the partner for sure, but it's also not fully honest and setting them up, because you're setting up your family member, your friend, in a negative light, because all they're hearing about the person is all the terrible things that they do,
Yeah,
or all
yeah.
the times they mess up. But if you're not going, hey, let me tell you what she did, for my birthday this year. Let me
Yeah.
tell you last week, like how thoughtful she was, or like the sacrifice. If you're not having those conversations, then I feel like it's not fair to always have the other conversation.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
So you have to make sure there's a balance, there's a tit for tat. And so, yes, you want to have people in your life that you can be honest with and you can communicate with and you can process, for sure. I think you just have to make sure you're not only negatively processing with them.
What do you think the harm is in doing so?
And only negatively processing?
Yeah.
Because it's not an honest discussion. Because you're only showing what frustrates you.
Yeah.
You're not actually showing what elevates you. You're not
Yeah.
showing what the incredible things that they do, but also because we're not wired to fully tell the truth in those moments, because we don't all really want the truth. We just want to vent. We want to be seen. We want to be understood. We want to be validated. Can you believe that he did ...
Yeah.
Well,
I had a conversation with someone who, can from time to time process those kind of things. And on her part, I think what was great is that she said, I realize that I'm trying to get validation from you because I'm not getting any validation from my partner. So she's like, I went back to my partner and was like, hey, like, I realize I go to other people because you don't want to talk about it and you don't want to process it, but I want to process it with you.
mm-hmm.
And we're never going to work if we don't start just coming to each other.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's great. And I think maybe in doing so, like talking badly and getting validation from somewhere else, then you don't give that person the true space to grow.
Yeah. And that's great. And then if you're a family member or you're a friend that is on the other receiving end, you also have to have the wisdom and the discernment and hopefully the maturity to call it out in the other person when it seems like it's just a cutting down session or demeaning the person. You good?
Like that's
you bored? Yeah. That's a big yawn. I mean, yeah, we can stop the pod if I'm not compelling enough for you.
No, I just didn't sleep that well last night.
No, it's okay. We'll continue. Or was I talking? I'll continue. The yawn threw me off.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a red flag to yawn in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
But where you got to be careful if you're not just careful, but to help the person. Because if the goal is to actually help the person process, then you got to be real with them and say, hey, feels like this getting into a little bit more of a piling on session.
Yeah.
And because what's the goal at the end? Is just to make the person feel validated in their frustrations with the other person. But then if you just, like highlight and agree, then you're just like, cool. Why in the world are you with this terrible person?
Yeah.
And then you just.
Oh, that's the other thing she said. She was like, "Oh, I realized I was just in a rut. Like I just kept circling around and around and around, and I'm still in the same place I was before."
Mm-hmm.
And yes, she was like, "You probably think what are you still doing there if it's this bad and you keep coming to the same place?"
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can also, I think she spoke to someone else who made her feel even worse. And she was like, "Oh, maybe my person's actually doing better than I thought. Maybe they're actually trying harder than
Mm.
I'm giving them credit for."
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I also wonder if when you talk badly about that person, whether they just kind of like those words just seep into your soul or seep into your marriage or seep into your relationship.
Mm. Sure.
And you don't want to put anything negative into your relationship,
Yep.
especially when it is hard. You want to be like very sensitive about it.
Mm.
I think you should always protect it, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's another aspect too of just like how you talk about, kind of how you talk about your ex
Yeah.
also says a lot about you.
This is part 1 of our episode talking about red flags, and tune in next week for part 2.